Yes, Chair, if you could start.
Okay, I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Technology Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. Clerk, could you please call roll call?
Yes, Pease,
Here.
Oliveri, absent. Simmons,
Present.
Lloyd,
Present.
Kirschman.
Present.
Now we will move to the public comment. Will the clerk please read the guidelines for the general public comment?
And I'm not sure what we do when we don't have any people in the room. We don't,
Right.
but thank you. We do not have anybody here for public comment, and I did not receive any public comment before the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion asks, are there any changes, corrections to the minutes from February 22nd, 2023?
Oh, so we're moving on to the approval of minutes?
Yes.
And yeah, so asking the committee members if you have any changes or corrections from the minutes that were posted. No.
Nope. Okay, so the minutes are deemed approved as presented then. Next up, I would like to invite Lucas Pereira, the city project manager, to share a presentation on the advanced metering infrastructure which is being put in place. So welcome, Lucas.
Can I share the screen with you? Nice. You guys can see it right?
Okay, just wait a second because we're getting your mic set up.
Yeah. Should we just introduce ourselves? Yeah. No, I'll go through it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting us here to this present our project. I'm here. My name is Dan Herrera. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations for Public Works. I'm here with Lucas.
Yeah, my name is Lucas Pereira. I'm the Assistant Engineer for the Public Works Department.
And we're also joined by Badger with Brian and David from Badger Meter to assist any questions you guys have towards the end of the presentation. So we will be presenting our AMI project. Yesterday we had a community informational meeting to the public, and we're continuing that presentation here to the TAC committee, and ultimately to inform you of what we're planning as for our AMI project. So can you help me? Can you go through this? I just don't want. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's kind of hard to see.
Oh, you want us to sit down? Okay. I guess we can sit down. So for the agenda tonight, we'll be really answering, what AMI is, what that technology is. We'll be going through Ion Water, which is a customer online portal that our residents will be able to utilize, once we get AMI going. Also describe when this is happening, and at the end, we'll have a Q&A for you guys to answer any questions you may have. So again, that question of, what AMI is, it's a question that we've received numerous times, and hopefully with this presentation, we can really shed some light on what that is. So AMI essentially it's a new kind of metering technology. Really, it's designed to collect information remotely and in near real time. It can be utilized to detect leaks for letting our residents have for quicker repairs on their system. And really, it's an element to empower our community to really understand, manage, and optimize their water usage, and really ultimately increasing the water conservation. As we all know, with that drought that we just had, it's paramount. So the components of a water meter. So all residents have a water meter. So how we deliver water to each home. Essentially, three really main components. On the right, you see what everyone sees towards their home, and it's a box in front of your property. It consists of a meter body, a brass meter body, which actually measures the water itself running through to your home. On the top of it, you'll see the register or encoder. It's really what someone can go and visually see what the water consumption is doing at any time. We have a little leak detector. That little blue dial is what we used to utilize for, hey, look, if there's a leak on your house, that's what you see. And the gray item on the right is the transponder. It's what transmits that data from that meter ultimately to the city. It's how we gather the data for each meter. So the upgrade that we're doing is really those last two parts. So we're changing some of the registers or encoders that we have as they're failing. I'll be talking about this later on in the presentation. We're going to be changing those, but ultimately the really important part is that endpoint. And again, I'll explain a little bit further, but that endpoint right now is transmitting radio frequencies, and we're going to be changing that to a cellular-based system, and that allows us to get more data at near time, more data so that we can use all that information, right, for leaks. So why are we doing AMI? So really, what's the purpose? What are we trying to do? Really, it's just information. It's data. It's giving the residents of Petaluma quick online access to your water usage that allows you to look how your household is utilizing that water. It's, again, water conservation, saving water, early leak detection. That's what it's really going to be used for. Right now, we rely on a system that's on a month-to-month basis. That's how you see your water bill, and it's about a month lag between when you get that information. So it allows you to see that information really a lot earlier and act upon it. And essentially, it's operational efficiencies, right? So right now, we utilize staff to drive around the town to gather all the information. We have 6 cycles that we operate on a monthly basis, and that's just continually driving and collecting that data. Now with this system, we can utilize our staff for leak calls, more customer service to the water meters that we get on a day-to-day basis. And ultimately what that does is it equals water conservation. It really empowers us to save water, that resource that we have, that we can make sure that we're using it the best way possible. So why am I again? So really it's one piece of the puzzle. It's an action we're taking today, ultimately to save water for tomorrow. It's not just the city that we're doing. We're doing this for our residents so that they can take ownership of their water usage, so that together, we can achieve water conservation. Really, that's the name of the game, to ultimately improve our water supply and that reliability, and making sure we're utilizing this precious resource that we have. So on this screen, you'll see a couple different, the components of what we have. It's a mixture of showing the different endpoints, the different way we gather, information. So our current water components, we did an AMR upgrade. I think we started in the early 2000s, and we completed it, I think sometime in the mid-teens, maybe about 8 years ago. And so it's an AMR system, right? So they're older, they're getting near the end of the useful life. Kind of difficult to get parts nowadays. I mean, we had supply issues, as we all kind of know, the last couple of years. And so, and really with this new technology, we really want to take that next step. We want to make sure that when we are replacing technology, we want to make sure it's the latest and greatest that we're installing. So AMR versus AMI. Right now we have AMR. So right now it requires a meter reader to go in a vehicle, drive around town, collect that data, via a collector in the car. Requires monthly drive-bys. Really, the data that you get is on a month-to-month basis. It's limited, it's infrequent, and it's provides limited access to residents. There is possibilities for residents to get more information on that month-to-month basis, but it requires special effort to go there, download the data at the meter, and it's kind of a cumbersome system. So AMI, now with this new technology, the water data usage is sent automatically, and near time. I mean, I think we have 15-minute data intervals. It's sent 4 times a day via what is considered a text message through this little cellular endpoint. And really it gives access to our residents online information that they can utilize almost instantaneously. Yeah, that's the new technology. So how will AMI benefit the residents of Petaluma? So again, speaking of access to information, that's the name of the game, right? So it's looking at your water usage, your throughout the day, throughout the month. It allows you to kind of plan ahead and making sure that you're using water the right way. It's done via that Ion Water. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Again, leak detection. That's kind of an important item where you can get alerts to where it'll analyze the data. It will look at low constant usage throughout the middle of the night and provide alerts and say, hey, you have a leak. And what that does is it really takes that surprise bill at the end of the month that's saying, you have a huge bill. Now you can catch that, you can preemptively strike that and get your leak, fixed before you used to be able to do that. And ultimately also it's less vehicles on the road. It really reduces all those vehicle miles traveled that happens with our cars, with our trucks that we need to get that information, and ultimately reducing greenhouse gas emissions, right? That's also important for us. So who else uses AMI? This is a list. It's not comprehensive. This is just a sample. But City of Santa Rosa has implemented AMI since 2017. The Valley of the Moon Water District, that's Sonoma. They've done this since 2015. North Mineral Water District, 2018. Up in the East Bay, Alameda County Water District just recently did this in 2021. City of Sacramento in 2017 and City of Santa Barbara in 2014. Also, many, many others across the state and nationwide. This is just a kind of a small sampling. I'm going to give this over to Lucas.
All right, good evening, everyone. So yeah, I think Dan already mentioned the nice feature that comes for the residents and for the city as well is this new online portal that everyone will have access to, which is called Ion Water. So we can dive into it. So I think we keep hitting on this key point, the direct water consumption data that's now accessible. And it's really powerful in a sense that I think before everyone was kind of just relying on that number that you get on the bill once a month, and that's your consumption, and you're just looking at the past, right? There's not much you can do about it because everything is you're looking at 30 days. So there's not much you can change on your habits, and you don't really know if that's really realistic. If there was a leak there, you just kind of go with it. And now with this daily information that you have on the palm of your hands, people can really track. And if you're out of town, for example, it's just like it's almost the sky is the limit once you have the information, what you can do with it. From a software standpoint, that Ion Water already has a lot of alerts that you can set up, configure for yourself. I think possible notifications for higher users than typical for a household of some certain amount of people. So it's really powerful, and it just, again, it's the access to water that if someone really wants to take that to the next level, they really can, because now you can see it on a 15-minute interval for every day your water consumption. And another really important benefit is the improved customer service, because now I think a lot of the phone calls might just be people trying to question and get more information just from the number of the bill on how much water they consumed in the previous month. And now they can still make those phone calls to our water customer reps, but now they can log on Ion Water. We on our side log in on Ion Water, go to your address, and we're both looking at the same information. And then from there, you can essentially explain what the information means, where maybe potentially why irrigation might be so many gallons of water versus a shower versus it almost provides more insight. And it's a lot more transparent when we have someone on our side telling someone, oh, this is why you have this bill and where it's coming from, when the resident can also see that information on his side versus just on the phone kind of taking someone's word for it, if you will, or not believing that they actually use that water, right? Because sometimes that does happen. And the third really key feature from the software is the water conservation. That one, I think Dan just hit on the leak detection, which again, that notification on your phone if from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. you have a constant minimum consumption of water, that's a little trigger for you have a leak somewhere. So the resident is alerted, he can contact the city, we can do further investigation, and that's potentially within the same week You can stop a leak that would have gone on for months until you probably see that on your lawn that it's completely flooded. And that's a lot of what they already paid for, that you can just stop that early on. And there's also, I think, besides the leak, there's a lot of conservational, I think, tools on how to optimize your consumption that the software also can like let you know of. So it's not just the leak detection, but it's also almost like those little tips that the program can give you on like how to optimize your consumption. Or if you're a little bit higher than the average person, and as long as you're okay with that, at least it's like you're aware of it. And yeah, so as far as a little bit more technical features of the EyeOnWater software, it's web-based and accessible on Android or iOS mobile phones and a computer, obviously. There's, like I had just mentioned, the leak alerts that can be configured via email or text message. So even if someone is not in their house, they can still be notified of it. It's a secure cloud-based platform. You can get information down to an hourly, daily, monthly, or yearly charts. You can overlay that with temperature and precipitation, so rain and our weather. You can overlay those numbers and do week-over-week comparisons. So again, looking at summer months versus winter months, summer months of 2023 versus 2022. So there's a lot of cool comparisons that people can do. So when is the program happening? So the city of Petaluma started the pilot program just over a year ago in January of 2022, where we essentially upgraded 58 city and city staff meters to AMI, myself included. And so far in this just over a year of data collection, it's just been a really positive feedback from all the staff members that can now use EyeOnWater. So we have firsthand experience with the program. We actually were able to detect the leak on one of our city parks. So we can see the city itself is just, we have a leak in one of our park connections. So that's something that we weren't aware of before. It's not always obvious to detect those. And there's also, I wanted to actually mention I think we have 2 additional customers that were incorporated into the pilot program, one being a commercial customer, the Petaluma Valley Hospital, just because of the importance for them to track their water consumption, which I just learned recently. I believe they're on a 24/7 consumption because they have a mini treatment inside the hospital. So for them, a bill once a month versus daily track is super important from an accounting perspective. Tracking, it's just, they couldn't wait to get on this program. And there's also a residential, I think one resident that had a leak, and then we repaired it. And then he asked you, is there anything that we can do that's more proactive? And then we offered the AMI. He logged on. He's very excited. He emailed us. He couldn't make the meeting last night, the community meeting, but he emailed us this morning saying he wanted to watch the presentation and had a sentence that's really cool that I can track my water consumption. So you can already see that anyone that is interested, they find it very helpful. So once, the pilot program, it's already gone over a year, so we're essentially now looking into the citywide rollout, which we're planning to begin later in the year, around the fall, winter of this year, 2023. And there will be an opt-out option for customers, and we're in the process right now of identifying the details of that opt-out. So currently we're just referring people to our website, thecityofpetaluma.org/AMI, and they can sign up for updates. So if they just put in their information, once we have all the details squared out on the opt-out, they can just be notified of that and then make their decision then. And also we had some AMR that then explained registers that because they're aging, due for replacement, if they weren't giving us a read, we just started to replace those with the new AMI meters, but we just stopped the replacement for the meantime, so we can just focus on a citywide replacement and not just inefficiently going one by one. And on a more kind of big picture view of the schedule, starting in January with the pilot program, right now we're March, April, we're just focusing the community workshop, gathering feedback from the community. And we're going to jump right into design here in the summer. Also still hoping to advertise the project in the summer, award the installation contract in the fall of 2023, so hopefully September time. And then not too long after that, still in the fall, actually start the installation, boots in the ground. And we expect it's going to take about 52 weeks, so just a year. and hopefully get it completed again fall of 2024. And I'll just send it back to Dan so he can bring it home.
Okay, thank you. So, the question, how is everybody going to know on when this project is going to be implemented? We're going to be sending letters through the mail or through email if those residents have signed up for that. You'll get a letter describing when we're going to be doing the project. Ultimately, on the day of that project, of when we install that, you'll be having a door hanger will be left at your home. It'll be describing what we're installing and also some details on how to actually sign up on that Ion Water website. For right then and there, you can start monitoring your usage. Ultimately, we have a city website that we're updating frequently, and we do direct everybody to please, look at that website at citypetaluma.org/AMI. For any project updates, any changes, anything that we do, we'll be updating that project regularly. So how will the installation impact our residents? So our meters are typically located right in front of your property, whether right behind the sidewalk or in the planter strip area. Sometimes we're in the sidewalk or in the driveway. But really, it's only going to access that meter box. We're not really need to go onto your property at all. Everything is really done within that box itself. So for the most part, we're not going to be requiring any sort of water shutoff for our residents. I can't say never, but we're not expecting that. It's really just taking that encoder, taking that endpoint, and slapping it back on. We're not changing the meter body itself. For our commercial, industrial, or agricultural, we are looking at upgrading some of these larger meters. We're looking at installing meters that also measure pressure, so it's going to help us really define our system and get some better information, within that. And so that might impact. We need to shut that off up to about an hour to actually replace the meter body. But we will notify. We'll coordinate with those residential owner or those customers, the commercial ag customers, on the to do that work. Really, what we could do, what we ask for our residents is really to help us out with that project. Is to clear. A lot of times there'll be brush or something, with some landscaping. Really, if you could help us out to clear that area out, it's really going to make this a lot easier on our end. So in conclusion, we just want to make sure everyone knows that what AMI does and what does not do. Really, AMI empowers our customers to monitor their water usage. It collects the data a lot more efficiently than we do now. It helps our water conservation and detect leaks early and easily, and really allows for a much more robust water conservation effort and potential savings through water use management, not just through the city, but for each individual customer. What it does not do is it doesn't change how you're billed. It doesn't require that drive-by element to get that data, and it doesn't transmit or monitor any personal customer information at all. This concludes our presentation. I wanted to thank you again. Any questions or comments you may have, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for coming. And I do have some questions, but I'm going to ask the committee if anyone has any questions. So I'll start with committee member Simmons. You want to go?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the level of communication that's going into this and your presentation presence tonight. I wanted to, on the off chance anybody is watching this, I want to underscore a point that I heard you make about having the data enabling people to really make decisions, change their decision making even. I know that at my household, we just installed solar over the last year, and suddenly we've instrumented the house to see where our energy use is going. And it's incredible how having that almost real-time feedback has allowed us to reduce consumption. So I'm really excited about that outcome of all this. One of the questions I had was about, the first question I have, and I have only two. One is about sort of aggregating data for making decisions at the city level. I know we had a fantastic presentation by someone at the city who's working on, I think, GIS in particular, and an open data portal. And I'm wondering if there's any thinking there about how we might be able to aggregate that data and surface that for for the rest of the public.
Oh, is that Trey? So again, all information, all data is going to be utilized as much as we can. We're still haven't really, I don't think we've thought that far on how we can utilize each individual. But what I would like to express is we are working on it. We have a model. We have a water master plan that we're doing right now. We have a water model that essentially utilizes water meter consumption on the older type system where it's on a month-to-month basis. So I think having that information now more, throughout the day, we can look at our peaks and valleys throughout the day. Usually, water consumption has 2 waves per day, one in the morning, one in the evening when everybody comes through. And then also coupled with that pressure, with these new water meters that have pressure, we can really dial in that water model and really kind of figure out where our deficiencies are and where we can, improve. And so that's where I think right now we can see what we're going to be using with that information, right?
Wonderful, thank you. And I want to note, I also heard you in the presentation really being mindful about how, private personal data is still being treated very carefully. So,
Yeah, I just want to express it's really not any different than the information that we're setting right now. So right now it's it's really just the customer number and the consumption, right? That's essentially what's being done. It's being done right now through radio waves, kind of almost constant. It's just always transmitting that information. And so this one is really just 4 text messages per day, but it's the same type of information, right? That's all that's being broadcast. It's just customer information and the consumption. That's all.
right.
Can
The-
I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
please.
Dan, can you just stop sharing? And that'll just help with the visibility on the internet, YouTube video. Thanks.
And the last question I had, so you mentioned that there's been some replacement as some of the AMR devices are reaching their end of life. What is the expected, how long do these new devices last? What's the sort of like long-term maintenance burden look like?
Well, I think it was like a 20-year life cycle on these. That's essentially it's the battery, and I think it's a little different because again it powers on. Again we can program it 4 times a day. One of those is constant. The other 2 we can kind of look at when we want that information sent, and it powers on, transmits the data, and then powers off. Right. So I think we get a little longer data life with that. So 20 years is our life cycle that we're expecting.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, committee member Peace, you have questions?
Yeah, thank you both very much. Excellent presentation. I think you've answered most of my questions. Excuse me. One question also about data. Will individuals be able to export their data to own that themselves? Some of us like to keep track of data, and just curious if that'll be exportable.
Right. I'm gonna have to answer, Ryan. I guess if you maybe.
Yeah, so you'll be able to, the software will hold the data for 3 years for the city as well. And then also the customers will be able to export their own data offline via Excel or whatever it is. So they'll be able to export their own data at, whatever increment they'd like to do that. But it will remain on the system for minimum of 3 years.
Excellent. Thank you. And if you could just give a summary of the different types of alerts that you would be able to set up. You mentioned if there's a baseline flow overnight kind of thing, but also max, say I would like to stay below this, let me know if I'm approaching that or getting above that. Just a summary of the different types of alerts.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of defer to Badger to if you have that.
Yeah, so the amount of alerts you can do, they'll have like a continuous flow alert, they'll have an intermittent flow alert. They'll also be notified if they have a leak. And then you'll be able to see on the city side, you'll be able to see if there's any backflow that's going through the meter. And then also you'll be able to see if there's any no usage. So in the last 72 hours, it says no water gone through this. That typically indicates like a stuck meter or something like that. You'll be able to see that. And then you can also flag some of your high-end users as continuous flow users. So these would be customers that we know are always going to be using water, but we just don't know how much. But we do want to keep it there. We know it's not a leak, but we do know that they're using water. We'll be able to keep an eye on those as well.
So, excuse me. If say a homeowner is trying to stay under a certain water budget or a certain target, Can they get alerted to when they're nearing that or when they reach that?
Yes, so there are some enhancements that are coming down the road as far as software enhancements that will have a water budget included in that. And those should be, we're anticipating later this year. About the time you guys are getting your project started off, we anticipate having some availability as far as water budgets go.
Right. I think I remember speaking about this. It's I think that's the beauty of this program is it's constantly evolving. So it's not something it's not set in stone. It's really the data, and ultimately Badger is looking at, you know, constantly changing that as well. So it's like just utilizing that, and ultimately you got to program it. But I think that's, remember, we have it now today, but these is what's available now, but we're adding things into the future.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. One last question. Curious if this technology may be transportable to gas meters. I think the visibility on gas meters would be excellent as well.
Yeah, we specifically, the AMI project that we have here, we're for strictly water only, but there is, I know that there are other, I don't know if it's the cellular technology, but I know that they do have an AMI system that was capable of passing that same data. And I'm not exactly sure what software those are, but you are able to see data and near real time usage as well. So it's not exclusive to water only.
Yeah, the technology's out there, just if
Yeah.
PG wants to utilize it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Kirschman?
What reasons would somebody opt out of this? And then, you know, what's done to address some of those concerns?
Well, it's really any reason if they don't want to, right? And so it's we have heard some issues regarding some 5G, you know, concerns. This utilizes a LTE machine, I guess, signal, specifically designed for this type of thing, where the data usage is essentially a text message. So we are giving the option for any reason anybody wants. It's kind of hard for me to really understand and think that this is why someone wouldn't want to, but that's really up to the individual to really determine if they really want that. We encourage it not to, just because, again, the information and the levels of signals that are transmitted this are so low. We have a graphic here that we could show, kind of, it really shows the strength of a signal of this meter compared to, say, a baby monitor or a laptop or a microwave. Those are so much greater than what this actually transmits. But ultimately, we're giving that opt out for any reason they would like to not, you know, be part of this.
Can I add to it too?
Sure thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, we also want to understand when someone
Right. That's true too.
sends, because I think the objective is for the opt-out to begin with a request via like the website, and for us to understand their concerns and if we can address them. Because I think on our community meeting yesterday, there were a lot of people that did have some concerns regarding just the technology as a whole. And then once we presented, let them ask questions, we had the experts again, like they're here right now, and a couple more that were able to join virtually but couldn't be here today, address all those concerns. Right. Those same residents ended the meeting yesterday just feeling very confident in the technology, that this is not essentially what they feared it would be. So our goal is to, once someone would like to opt out, is to just try and understand why. And if they're willing to engage in a conversation with us, the experts, we are willing to provide all the information that we have. And hopefully they will, you know, be on our side and see what the technology can do and how it's there to benefit the city, the residents, and they'll opt in. But if they still, with all the information, questions answered, they still would like to opt out, it will be their choice at the end of the day.
Okay. Again, thank you for coming tonight. I have a couple questions as well. So talking about the cell-based modems or the cell-based connectivity that they have, I have a couple questions on that. I know there are pockets of the town, especially on the northeast side, that have little to no cell connectivity from any provider. Are you talking to the providers at all to kind of fix that issue in the parts that don't have any connectivity?
Yeah, I believe we had some sort of, we did a kind of survey of the area of the level of signal that we would need, and I think pretty much, I think we're covered for the most part. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's not exactly like a cell phone. Obviously, it's a different technology. It's designed for machine-to-machine communication. So, whereas as a voice phone or an iPhone or Android would need a different, it's a different type of cellular message. So it's a lower power, higher frequency, or lower frequency, I should say. That it's a stronger signal. So it's not exactly the same as like your voice. We don't need speed. It basically wakes up for 2 to 4 seconds, sends a message out, waits for its confirmation message, and it goes back to sleep. It's completely off. Whereas a cell phone is always on, always searching for a signal, looking for a confirmation. When this is just powers up, sends its text message, goes back to sleep. And it's not even like a long text message. It's basically says, great, thanks, and then it kind of goes back to sleep. So it's a very small, less than a kilobyte, I think 2 kilobyte or something like that text message. It's very small.
Okay, makes sense. The other is you might answer this question too. Is it multi-provider? Will it work with any provider, or you do?
So yeah, each we have 2 providers that we work with. Each one of it would require. We don't have like a dual SIM in each card or each endpoint. So when we do a cellular coverage analysis, so we'll know our 2 primary providers are AT&T as our primary, and Verizon is our secondary carrier. And we've done a coverage analysis that says, hey, we need this particular endpoint at these locations, and then if we do have some situations where we don't, we will put in the Verizon endpoint as well. So,
Okay.
And we are working on a 3rd carrier, but we don't know exactly which one that would. They haven't told us which one that one is, but it's one of the big 3. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then final question on that is, I was just thinking that. So you said it was LTE technology that it's being used?
Yeah, so it's LTE-M. The technical term
Okay,
would be
yeah.
Cat 1 or Cat M1. Basically, it's used by a lot of other different devices like vending machines, stuff like that, like automated street lights, stuff like that. So there's over 2 million different devices that are on this Cat M network.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's not just a water meter only thing. We're kind of we're kind of early to the game with it, but in the grand scheme of things, we're kind of late to the game with in this water space with it.
Okay,
So
makes sense. Thank you.
Oh.
What else? Do I have anything else? I don't remember. I think you answered all my other questions during the call or during the presentation, so that was really great. And thank you for coming. Thank you for presentation. Thank you for coming with them and helping us.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. All right. I don't think we have any public comment here. Is there anything that you've received anywhere else?
There's no one here for public comment.
Okay, perfect. So we will close public comment then?
And I'll just jump in. You can leave if you'd like. You don't need to stay for the rest of the meeting. But thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
and
thank you.
talking with us. And we might have you back. We probably will have you back, at some point, and please use this committee as a sounding board and resource moving forward. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, so I'll close public comment and we'll continue with the committee comment. So I will call on other committees in alphabetical orders. So Vice Chair Kirschman, you have any comments?
I don't have any updates at this time.
Next up is myself, so I don't think I have any comment or update on anything else at this point either. So I'll go, committee member Oliveri is not here, so I'll go to committee member Peace.
No comment at this time, thank you.
Next committee comment is committee member Simmons. I don't know if you have any updates on GPAC or anything else that's going on.
Yeah, thank you. So just briefly, last month I updated us all on where the general plan is at and the housing element, which was moving back through city committees and through city council. City council approved the updated revised housing element on Monday's meeting. We will know more about that. I believe it's a 60-day window to hear back from the state, see where we are there. At this last GPAC meeting, which is it's the 3rd Thursday of every month, so this was last week, we were covering the subject of safety. So we're talking about wildfire risk, flood risk, things like that, and what the city is thinking about in terms of meeting those demands or those crises as they get worse. So highly recommend if those are subjects that are near and dear to your heart. I mean, they all impact us directly. Highly recommend getting to the meeting recording for that. And right now, the GPAC is going through topic by topic a handful of things before getting into deeper policy issues. So now is a good time to see, I really recommend everybody take a look at what the agenda is whenever it's posted, see if it speaks to you, because it's definitely a great opportunity to get involved. The only other comment I have is just more general. I really wanted to thank everybody for masking up here. It's so nice to be here in person and nice to be able to do that in a way that's not higher risk. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on agenda is staff comments. I'll invite staff to share their comments at this time, starting with Brendan Galton, followed by Nancy Sands.
Chair, did you get to Kershimon? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Not really too much, just a couple comments. Obviously, we're still working a little bit on things we do have our AV contract person coming in this Friday. We're actually switching up some connectivity things that we think are going to actually improve things, like the microphone's not working sometimes, things like that. So we're working on that. As a resident, I'm pretty excited about the presentation tonight, especially as a resident who already controls the thermostat pretty closely. Now I'm going to have data to control that faucet pretty closely. I guess my only comment is if anybody came up with any Python scripts for that exported data that was fun and they were willing to share them, I'd sure like to look at them. So I could see the wheels turning when they were talking about the exported data. So it'd be kind of fun to play with that. So that's kind of all I have.
Okay. And my comment tonight is really just to say welcome and thank you. As I noted in my email last week, we, from the clerk side, the administrative side, we've got a new technology system for us. It's been used in the council meetings for several, since last September, I think it was launched. But now our commissions and committees, our boards are now using it. And so just a little bit of transition with that. We also taking that as an opportunity to standardize from committee to committee, everything from setting up the agenda and also minutes. So I said in my email, are the different things that we cover in the agenda and why. It's really simplified. So this tonight was considered a public hearing or matter for consideration because we did have public comment. If it had just been a presentation with no discussion, it would have just been considered a presentation. We're not doing new items for business or new business or old business. So it's actually going to really simplify our job as well as the committee and commission members' jobs. We're going to be working on standardizing minutes moving forward as well. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. Aside from that, I think in past meetings we've discussed some of the work we're doing internally with prioritizing projects and related to tied to our city budget. And I just encourage the committee members to check out our agendas for our city council meetings or other committee meetings. Apropos of this transition back into in person, and the fact that we can't have we're not doing a hybrid option for our commission committees. I expect that that will change. I hope that will change. I think we are working toward that being changed. It's just, it is a big transition for staff to just come back and deal with a new system. And so as we get more familiar and more, have more experience and more, obviously, even tonight you saw there's a lot of little pieces to make it all happen. So we're hoping that, at some point in the future, we'll be able to offer that option as well. And that's really all I have to update you on.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will adjourn the meeting. With that, we are adjourned at 7:52 p.m., it looks like. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight.
Great, thank you.